Welcome! In this explainer, we're going to connect two worlds that honestly couldn't seem more different, the hard science of physics and the ancient world of biblical prophecy. And you know what connects them? A single, really powerful idea, the concept of a pattern.
So yeah, this sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, right? What could possibly link the tech that sends people to the moon with scrolls written thousands of years ago? Well, the answer is a kind of universal law, a blueprint that, believe it or not, shows up in both places. Let's start with the science side of things.
To get where we're going, we first need to get our feet on solid ground with a concept you probably ran into in science class, something from the world of physics.
Okay, here it is. Newton's third law of motion. We've all heard the phrase, but what does it really mean? It's actually super simple. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you push on a wall, the wall literally pushes back on you with the exact same force. That's why you can't just walk through it. Nothing just happens in a vacuum. There's always a pushback.
And what's so cool is that you see this law absolutely everywhere. I mean, think about a rocket. It pushes all that hot gas down. That's the action. And the reaction, the gas pushes the rocket up. Even just walking, your foot pushes backward on the ground, and in return, the ground pushes you forward. When you swim, you push water back, and the water pushes you forward. It's this perfect, balanced exchange that's happening all the time.
So here's the key takeaway. This isn't just a rule for rockets or for walking. It's what we're going to call a theorem, a universal pattern that's true no matter what the situation is. The details can change, but that basic principle of action and reaction, that stays the same. Now, I want you to hold on to that idea of a repeating pattern as we switch gears from physics to prophecy.
Okay, so now let's see how this whole idea of a universal theorem might just apply to something totally different, ancient prophecy.
This is really the big question we're tackling. What if some prophecies weren't meant to be just a single one-and-done prediction? What if they're more like divine patterns, or theorems, that keep repeating and unfolding throughout history in all these different ways?
And this slide just lays out the comparison perfectly. On the left, you've got your scientific theorem. An action leads to a reaction. Simple enough. But look at the right. We see a really similar structure in these prophetic principles. For instance, there's a pattern where the action of sin leads to the reaction of judgment, or the action of repentance leads to the reaction of restoration. It's the same kind of if this, then that logic, just in a totally different context.
Now, to make this idea really concrete, let's dive into a famous example from the book of Isaiah. We'll call it the Immanuel Theorem.
So here's the original text. It's a prophecy that a virgin will have a son named Immanuel, which means God with us. Now, instead of just seeing this as one single event, let's look at it as a pattern that fulfills itself in different layers over time. This table breaks it all down beautifully. You have the first layer, an immediate fulfillment way back in Isaiah's time, as assigned to a king. Then you've got the second layer, the one most people know, the messianic fulfillment, which the New Testament connects directly to the birth of Jesus. But the pattern doesn't stop there. There's also a future, end times layer where God will finally dwell with all of humanity. And there's even a personal layer about how God's Spirit dwells with believers today. It's one theorem, one pattern, with four totally distinct applications throughout history.
You know, if the whole theorem analogy feels a little too academic, here's another great way to picture it. Just think of these prophetic patterns like a wave that starts out small but just keeps building and building over time.
Yeah. This concept is sometimes called progressive fulfillment. So you've got that initial little crest, that's the first near-term fulfillment. Then a bigger wave builds on that original pattern, and that one often points to Jesus. And finally, you get this massive tidal wave, the ultimate, final, complete fulfillment at the end of history. It's the same pattern, just getting bigger and more significant each time it appears.
So why does looking at prophecy this way even matter? What's the big deal here? Well, it's all about seeing the bigger, more connected story that's being told.
See, this whole framework really helps us make sense of why the New Testament writers were always quoting the Old Testament and applying it to Jesus. They weren't just yanking verses out of context. No, they were recognizing a divine pattern, a theorem that was set up a long time ago and was now finding its greater fulfillment. It's basically pattern recognition on this huge historical scale.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Looking at it this way, prophecy isn't just about predicting the future anymore. It's something so much richer. It's a divine theorem that's literally woven into the fabric of history, repeating itself and revealing more and more of its meaning as time goes on.
Which kind of leaves you with one final thought to chew on.
If a pattern as basic as Newton's law can have a parallel in ancient texts, what other universal patterns might be out there hiding in plain sight, connecting worlds we never thought had anything to do with each other? What else might we be missing?